Good evening and welcome to our third Wednesday Museum After Hours program. I'm Leanne Githens. I'm a volunteer at the Wilson County Historical Society and Museum. And tonight we're going to be highlighting one of our community members. He's passed away now, but he really was a major contributor to the community. June is a month when we're really excited to have the farmers market open again. And we're all about the fruits and the vegetables and really love going there. Well, this is not a new concept. For a great many years, we had a man in the community who was known as a gentleman farmer or a master gardener, and it was Omie Spohn. Tonight, I'm going to be sharing information about him and his life. He was a used car salesman, but let's start with some basic facts about him. Omie Spohn was born January 24, 1912, here in Fredonia. He had two siblings, Jean Spohn and Ethel Berkefelt. He graduated from Fredonia High School in 1933 and attended the Fredonia Business College. He married Irma June Malin on June 12, 1935, and they had three daughters, Carol Bernauer, Janice Barrows, and Pam Spohn. Omie died October 31, 2003 at the age of 91. He is buried in the Fredonia City Cemetery. The memorials, which we know that quite often the memorials that are designated really indicate the passions and of the person who has passed. So Omie's memorials were established with Gideon's International, the First Christian Church, and the Fredonia Flag Fund. So a little bit more about Omie. He was a member of the First Christian Church here in Fredonia, where he was an elder emeritus. He served 2 terms as president of the Fredonia Chamber of Commerce, and he served on the Rural Water District No. 1 Board of Directors. Omie was owner and operator of Spohn Auto Sales in Fredonia for 18 years, selling used cars. And the business was located for a number of years. In the early years, starting in 1962, it was located at 428 North 5th Street. And then in 1972, it moved just down the street a little bit to 432 North 5th. So both of those locations are just north of what is now the First Oak Bank. So the second location would actually be where the drive-up window is, but in the middle of that block. At some point in his life, Omie worked for Don Marple and Frank Troutman of Troutman and Marple Auction Company as a clerk. And then in his retirement, Omie bought a 46-acre farm about 1.5 miles northwest of Fredonia. Omie had a large garden selling produce in Fredonia and as far away as Neodesha, Independence, and Wichita. He sold tomatoes, beans, peas, cantaloupe, cabbage, okra, and parsnips. In addition to the garden, he raised a herd of Hereford cattle and had a pond of 12 to 15 pound channel catfish. So I'll share a photo or two of Omie gardening. That is kind of an old style cultivator, which they work really well. And we can tell here he is mulching his tomatoes. In 1994, Omie was featured in one of Larry Hatteberg's books. Some of you may recall those or have a copy of those. There was originally Larry Hatteberg's Kansas People, and then the follow-up book was more Larry Hatteberg's Kansas People. And that's the one that Omie was featured in. The title of the article about him was Gentleman Retiree. Omie Spohn has given up his farm, but not his garden. So I'm going to share this narrative with you, and keep in mind as I read it that this was written in 1994. They once called him the gentleman farmer. Folks around Fredonia, and even as far away as Neodesha, Independence, and Wichita, used to watch for the classified ad that Omie Spohn would put in the local paper whenever his tomatoes were ready to harvest. They'd come and buy whatever he had and visit another time for beans, peas, and cantaloupe. He doesn't have the farm anymore. About 2 years ago, and this is in referencing to 1992, he and his wife, Irma, thought it was time they started retiring for real, and they moved to a house in town. But Omie still had a little garden, a 30 by 30 foot collection of peas, cabbage, okra, and parsnips. And every now and then he'd get a call on the telephone. When are your tomatoes going to be ready? I'm through selling at markets, so now I just give them away, Spohn said. Whatever my wife and I can't use, we give to the friends and neighbors. Farming was not always a way of life for Spohn. For 18 years, he owned and operated a local car dealership. After retiring from that, he bought the 46-acre farm about 1.5 miles northwest of town. He and his wife cleaned it up, reconstructed the pond that was on that site, built a modular home, and bought a herd of Hereford cattle. He did it because he loved the lifestyle. It's a lot of work, he said of his gardening, but that is the way I enjoy my retirement. He spent hours planting, watering, and tending marigolds and other flowers, not for himself, but because they made other people happy. I get good out of it too, because it makes them happy. And I'm happy, said Spohn, a soft-spoken, bespectacled man. As you can see, I never get done with all my work here, and for me, that is retirement. These plants, they talk to me. They keep me awake, and so for me, this is retirement, but still, working every day, seeing these cabbages grow, tomatoes grow, just everything in general appeals to me. There's just nothing about it I don't like. In his garden, Spohn is at peace. When I was in business, that mental strain was harder on me than this physical work. On the old Spohn farm, work was calling the cattle. Come on, people! Come on, you people! And feeding them right out of his bucket. They're just like humans to me. Oh, yes, I love them. And you see they're tame. See, a lot of cattle, a stranger come out like this and they'll run. These here, they're pets. And if you thought people came from miles around just to buy a head of Spohn's famous cabbage or see the steers, think again. They also loved Spohn's other pets. His pond full of 12 to 15-pound channel catfish. Come on, you fish! Come on, you fish! Come on! Spohn would call as he scattered a bucket of food pellets on the pond water. Dozens of catfish would flop along the surface, their eyes and whiskers peeking out above the water. I have a nephew in Wichita, and one time he and his friend drove to southeast Kansas to see Big Brutus. You know about Big Brutus? Spohn said, referring to the giant coal mining machine on display in the town of West Mineral. On their way back, they decided they'd stop and see Uncle Omie's catfish. So they came by, and we went out to feed him. And my nephew's friend said, "This is better than Big Brutus." Well, after the Spohns sold the farm, they sold it to a Mennonite farmer who did keep the catfish fed. I don't know who currently owns that property, but it did transfer from Omie to someone who also loved the land. I guess to a lot of people, this won't mean a whole lot, Omie said, but to me, it's heaven right here on earth. And I'm guessing that there are many gardeners who feel exactly the same way, that they are at peace in their garden and they just get a lot of joy out of sharing their produce with other people. Maybe they sell a little bit at the farmer's market, but it is really a labor of love. So thank you for following along as I shared a little bit about one of the characters that lived here in Fredonia for a good number of years and contributed to the community. Thanks for watching, and I hope